Okay, let's dive into the incredible story of a nation that was, quite literally, built from the water up. It's a fantastic story about how a small, low-lying country on the edge of Europe became a global power, all by mastering its greatest threat, the sea. And let's start with just one number, because this number, well, it explains everything. 26%. That is how much of the Netherlands is below sea level. Think about that for a second. This single fact has shaped their identity, their people, and their entire history. You know, this reality led to this incredible saying that just captures the Dutch spirit perfectly. For centuries, they've been in this constant battle with the sea. But here's the kicker. They weren't just defending themselves. They were actively creating land where there was nothing but water. I mean, this whole struggle for survival is literally right there in the name. The Netherlands just means lower countries. It's a direct nod to this, well, this incredibly precarious geography. So you have to ask, right? How on earth did they build a nation on land that, by all rights, shouldn't even be there? Well, to survive, they had to get creative, they had to innovate, and they engineered their own land with this absolutely remarkable invention called the polder. Now, this wasn't just about throwing up a few walls to keep the water out, no. This was about systematically taking back the seabed acre by painstaking acre. And what you're seeing here is just the simple genius of how they did it. For centuries, this is how the Dutch grabbed thousands of square kilometers right from the sea. Step 1, you build a dike. Step 2, you pump out all the water, and yeah, you use those famous windmills for that. And then, step 3, you farm the brand new land. This whole cycle of creation, it became the very core of what it meant to be Dutch. So all this fighting against the water together, it had huge political consequences. I mean, think about it. If you all have to work together just to not drown, you get organized. And that's how they created some of the world's very first democratic bodies, the water boards. And this unity they built, well, it turned out to be absolutely crucial for their next big fight, the one for their own freedom. And that fight was a long one. Starting in 1568, the Dutch were tangled up in this grueling 80-year war for independence against the super powerful Spanish Empire. This was more than just a revolt. This was the fire that forged a Dutch nation. It all finally wraps up in 1648, with the Dutch Republic officially on the map. And you can't really overstate how brutal this war was. Just listen to this chilling account from a Dutch chronicler. It's shocking, but it really shows you the extreme violence on both sides and reminds you just how incredibly high the stakes were in this fight for their religion and for their independence. Okay, so after they mastered the water at home, what do you think they did next? They took that same skill, that mastery of the sea, and they turned it outwards. They started to dominate the world's oceans. And this is what kicked off their incredible golden age. We're talking an explosion of wealth, culture, and science. And the scale of their power, it's almost hard to wrap your head around. By the middle of the 17th century, the Dutch merchant fleet was just colossal. I mean, they had more ships than many of their big European rivals combined. They basically became the truckers of the world's oceans. And this just shows you their global reach. You had these two powerhouse trading companies, the VOC in the east and the WIC in the west. And they set up shop everywhere. Colonies, trading posts all over the planet. From New Amsterdam, yeah, that's what we now call New York, all the way to the Spice Islands in Indonesia. Because of all this economic muscle, a lot of historians actually see the Dutch Republic as the world's first truly capitalist nation. I mean, Amsterdam had the first proper full-time stock exchange that came up with ideas like insurance and retirement funds, and get this, they even had the world's first big speculative bubble, the infamous Tullermania. So you see this pattern, right? That same practical, problem-solving DNA that let them build a country from the sea and then a global empire, it just kept evolving. And it shaped modern Dutch society into something totally unique and often way ahead of its time. For a while, the country had this really unique system called pillarization. Basically, different religious and political groups all lived their own separate lives, side by side. But then the nation shifted, and it morphed into this modern identity that's famous, and yeah, sometimes controversial, for its social tolerance on all sorts of issues, from drug policy to euthanasia. And here's a perfect example of that. In 2001, the Netherlands became the very first country in the entire world to legalize same-sex marriage. It was a huge moment, and it really cemented their reputation as a trailblazer for social progress. And you can really see this social shift in their religious landscape today. The Netherlands is now one of the most secular countries in Europe. More than half the population says they have no religion. That is a dramatic change from their deeply religious past. And that brings us right back to where we started. The story comes full circle. That ancient struggle, the one that defined the Dutch past, that battle against the water, well, it's back. And it's reemerging as the defining challenge, not just for them, but for all of us. Yep, the old enemy has returned. With climate change and rising sea levels, that age-old fight is not only back on, it's more urgent than it has ever been. The very force they thought they'd tamed is, well, it's knocking on the door again. But if you think the Dutch are unprepared, you'd be wrong. After a totally catastrophic flood back in 1953, they went to work and engineered one of the most sophisticated water defense systems anywhere on Earth, the massive Delta Works. It's an absolutely breathtaking piece of engineering, all designed to do one thing: hold back the sea. And they're not stopping there, not by a long shot. The country is already getting ready for a sea level rise of 1.1 meters in the next few decades. They're reinforcing dikes, building up dunes, and even have these genius plans with names like Room for the River, which is all about strategically letting some areas flood to save others. Which leaves us with this one big final question. The Dutch used their incredible ingenuity to literally create a nation where one shouldn't even exist. So will that same ingenuity be enough to save it from the rising tides of the 21st century? It's a story that's been centuries in the making. And believe me, the next chapter is being written as we speak.